When you walk into almost any commercial gym in the world, there's usually one specific piece of equipment that just completely commands the room.
Oh, for sure. It sits right there in the middle, kind of acting like the center of gravity for the entire facility.
Yeah, exactly. The flat barbell bench press station.
Right. There's always a queue of people just hovering around it, waiting for their turn, and everyone's kind of watching whoever is under the bar.
It really is the ultimate proving ground. It's the undisputed holy grail of chest day.
Absolutely.
But when you really stop and look at what is actually happening on that bench, like watching people unrack these massive amounts of weight, straining and shaking, it reminds me of something completely ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, it reminds me of someone commuting to a mundane suburban office job in a massive, roaring 18-wheeler truck.
That is a hilarious image, an 18-wheeler just to get to a cubicle.
Think about it. I mean, it's loud, it takes up a massive amount of space, it's driven entirely by ego, and most importantly, it is wildly, comically inefficient for the actual task at hand.
Right.
You do not need a diesel semi-truck to pick up a coffee and drive to a desk.
Oh.
And according to the source material we are jumping into today, you absolutely do not need a heavy barbell to build a great chest.
Exactly. Our mission today is to completely rethink how you go about building a strong, defined chest.
Yes, a total rethink.
We are looking at this masterclass from a fitness veteran named Keith Hanenian, and he is almost 61 years old. He has over 40 years of training experience, and his core message just fundamentally flips traditional gym dogma completely on its head.
I mean, 40 years. He has seen every fad, every trend, and, every ego lifter come and go over those 4 decades.
He really has.
And he doesn't mince words about his philosophy either. His exact blunt quote right out of the gate is, and excuse language here, but he says, fuck the barbells.
Which is a pretty bold statement to make.
Right. Especially to an audience of people who usually measure their self-worth by how many plates they can slide onto a steel bar.
Yeah, he specifically targets that age-old question every guy has been asked at some point in their life, how much do you bench?
Oh, the classic gym bro question.
Right. And Keith's response to that is just, who gives a crap how much you bench?
Wait, let's pause right there because I have to play devil's advocate on behalf of anyone listening who really loves chest day.
Sure, go ahead.
Isn't the barbell bench press considered a foundational compound movement? I mean, telling someone to ditch the barbell feels like telling a runner that jogging is bad for them.
It does sound counterintuitive at first.
Right, because if I want a bigger chest, shouldn't I move the biggest weight possible?
Nah.
There's a feeling of raw power in ego lifting with a barbell.
Well, there is a feeling of power, yes. But it assumes the primary goal of your training is simply moving mass from point A to point B.
Okay, fair.
If you are a competitive powerlifter, sure, your absolute metric is the total weight on that barbell. But Keith argues that for the vast majority of people listening, the goal isn't to win a powerlifting meet.
Right.
The real goal is to build shape, definition, and muscle density.
Ah, okay. And specifically, he talks about building the upper chest. Right, he mentions this is critical for older guys who want to avoid what he bluntly calls boobies.
Yes, he does use that term.
Which is that sagging effect that happens when you only focus on the lower chest or just general mass without actually targeting the upper fibers.
Exactly. And the barbell bench press is uniquely terrible at isolating that specific shape.
Wait, really? Uniquely terrible?
Yeah, let's look at the underlying biomechanics of why Keith says to ditch it entirely. When you grab a barbell, your hands are locked into a fixed position on a solid piece of steel.
Right.
Your wrists, your elbows, and your shoulder joints are forced into a very specific, rigid path of travel.
Meaning you literally cannot rotate your wrists or adjust your elbows mid-lift at all. You are trapped in that plane of motion.
Precisely. Your body cannot make the micro adjustments necessary to optimally align the resistance with the actual fibers of your chest muscles.
Oh, wow.
And when the weight gets heavy, your central nervous system actually panics slightly.
And it panics.
It does. It recognizes a massive heavy load hovering directly over your throat, and it just wants to survive the movement. So it recruits whatever muscles it can to get the weight up safely.
Wow. So it stops being a chest exercise and just turns into a full body survival mechanism.
You see it happen all the time in the gym. People squirm around on the bench, they recruit their front
The
deltoids.
shoulder muscles, yeah.
Right, the shoulder muscles take over to push, their triceps kick into overdrive, they arch their lower back so high they're practically doing a gymnastics bridge.
I've definitely seen that.
The chest, the very muscle you are supposedly there to train, just takes a backseat to manage the sheer load of the mass you're trying to move.
Oh, I totally see the disconnect now. It's like trying to paint a delicate portrait with a 10-pound sledgehammer.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, sure, you are generating a massive amount of force. You're definitely smashing the canvas,
Yeah.
but you have absolutely zero precision.
None at all.
You're just destroying things, including your own joints, because you're using the wrong tool for the job.
Exactly. The sledgehammer lacks nuance, and so does the heavy barbell. Keith's core philosophy is that as you progress in your training, the absolute key to muscle growth is the mind-muscle connection.
Right, the mind-muscle connection.
It is about focusing strictly on the active, deliberate contraction of the target muscle. And to get that contraction, to really feel that specific squeeze without destroying your rotator cuffs, you need the freedom of movement that only dumbbells can provide.
Okay, so we are dropping the ego, we are leaving the 18-wheeler parked at home, putting the sledgehammer away, and we're grabbing the dumbbells.
Yeah.
But Keith is very specific that we aren't just taking these dumbbells to a standard flat bench, are we? The physical setup here is treated like a science.
Oh, the setup is the foundation of everything that follows. The flat bench is a major culprit for shoulder impingement, but the other mistake people make when trying to target the upper chest is cranking the incline bench way too high.
Yeah, they set it up so it looks almost like a dining chair.
Exactly.
What actually happens when the incline is too steep like that?
The exercise transforms mechanically. The pectoralis major, your chest muscle, has different sections. The upper section is called the clavicular head, and it sits right below your collarbone.
Okay.
When you sit at a steep incline, the downward pull of gravity bypasses those chest fibers entirely. The load shifts heavily onto the front deltoids instead.
Oh, so you might as well just be doing a seated military overhead press.
Exactly.
So the shoulder joint ends up taking all the heat, and the chest does basically nothing. What is the magic number for the bench then?
Keith says the absolute sweet spot for the bench angle is 25 to 30 degrees off zero, just a very slight incline.
That makes perfect sense if you think about the bench angle exactly like you would a solar panel on the roof of a house.
I like that analogy.
Right. If you want that solar panel to generate the maximum amount of energy, you have to tilt it perfectly toward the sun.
Makes sense.
If you tilt that panel at exactly 25 or 30 degrees, it absorbs maximum direct sunlight. In this analogy, the sunlight is the downward pull of gravity against the dumbbells, and the panel is that specific upper chest muscle. It just absorbs all the work.
And that alignment is exactly what separates an amateur from someone with 40 years of experience. You are purposefully isolating the muscle you want to grow.
Right.
But if you tilt that solar panel way too far up, pointing it horizontally instead of up at the sunlight just glances right off it. It misses the panel completely.
And in the gym, when that sunlight misses your chest, your shoulder joints wear the brunt of the damage.
Yes.
Okay, but here's where I genuinely got confused watching the source video.
Oh, what part?
We have this veteran, right, a guy who clearly knows his way around a weight room. He sets up his perfect 30-degree solar panel angle. He lies back. And then he picks up 15-pound dumbbells.
Yeah, 15 pounds.
15 pounds. That feels incredibly light. I mean, how is he generating enough resistance to actually stimulate muscle growth with weight that light?
Because he is shifting the primary driver of growth from the absolute load, the weight of the dumbbell itself, to something called time under tension.
Time under tension, okay.
He advises starting very light to warm up the connective tissue and truly establish that mind-muscle connection we talked about. He slowly works his way up the rack, sure, but the entire philosophy rests on continuous tension, not moving maximum weight.
Which brings us to the actual routine.
Yeah.
He doesn't just do a set of presses, put the weights down, and, scroll on his phone for 3 minutes.
No, definitely not.
He outlines a back-to-back sequence, a 3-in-1 dumbbell gauntlet.
And this sequence is a brilliant masterclass in achieving total muscle exhaustion. You're attacking the chest from 3 different mechanical angles without needing heavy loads at all.
Let's unpack these 3 movements. So exercise number 1 of the gauntlet is a standard incline press, and he aims for 10 to 15 reps.
Right.
But his technique is highly specific. He keeps the palms of his hands cradling the weight, and he gives 2 non-negotiable rules. First, do not lower the weights too far down. And second, never, ever lock out your arms at the top.
Those are crucial.
Why stop before the weights reach the bottom, though?
It comes down to the eccentric phase of the lift.
The eccentric phase being the lowering portion of the movement.
Yes, exactly. Scientifically, this lowering phase is where you actually cause the most micro-tearing in the muscle fibers, which is the exact damage that triggers muscle growth.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if you drop the dumbbells too low, stretching past the natural mobility of your shoulder joint, you take the tension off the chest entirely, the load transfers straight into the tendons and ligaments of the shoulder.
So you lose the muscle engagement and risk a serious injury simultaneously.
Yep. The tension completely vanishes from the chest, and the exact same thing happens at the top of the movement.
At the lockout.
Exactly. When you fully extend your elbows and lock out at the very peak of a press, those dumbbells are suddenly being supported almost entirely by your bone structure. Your skeletal system basically acts like a solid steel pillar holding up the weight.
Meaning the chest muscle gets to take a nap.
The chest muscle relaxes entirely. By stopping short of the bottom and stopping short of the lockout, the chest muscle has to support the weight for the entire duration of the set. The eccentric phase must be strictly controlled.
Got it. So keeping the elbows slightly bent at the top and stopping short at the bottom is, it's like holding a thick rubber band perfectly taut between your hands.
That is a perfect way to visualize it.
You never let your hands come so close together that the rubber band goes totally slack, right? Giving it a rest, but you also never stretch it so far past its limit that it snaps. You are purposefully trapping the muscle in this highly controlled zone of constant tension.
And that constant tension is ruthless. By the time you hit 15 reps of this, your chest is completely flooded with blood and lactic acid.
Oh, and as a funny side note from the video, while Keith is demonstrating this perfect, controlled form, he mentions that critics in his comments might ask why his head is lifted up off the bench while he lifts.
Oh, right. The mirror.
Yeah. He clarifies with a laugh that he's only keeping his head up so he can look in the mirror to talk to the camera. Normally, you should keep your head flat on the bench.
A good reminder that even experts have to adapt their form for a YouTube audience sometimes. But back to the gauntlet. You've just finished 10 to 15 reps of this continuous tension press. Your chest is on fire. But you do not drop the weights.
No rest at all. You stay in that exact same 30-degree incline position, and you immediately transition into exercise 2, which is incline flies. He recommends 10 to 12 reps here, but the motion completely changes. Instead of pressing up and down, you transition to a wide, sweeping arc-type motion.
You move from a compound pressing motion to an isolation movement. It looks like you are trying to hug a massive tree trunk.
He specifically says to keep your arms parallel to the floor, but he really emphasizes keeping your wrists incredibly tight. Why is wrist position so critical for a chest exercise?
Well, when you loosen your wrists or let them bend backward under the weight, your forearms and biceps naturally try to help move the load. They just take over.
Oh, interesting.
By locking the wrists tight and focusing the movement entirely on the pivot of the elbows, you effectively take those smaller arm muscles out of the equation. Your chest fibers are forced to act like massive hinges, pulling the entire weight of your arms inward.
So you are stretching the muscle fibers horizontally under a load.
And doing this immediately after the presses forces a massive amount of blood into the tissue. Bodybuilders refer to this as the pump.
The famous pump.
Physiologically, what is happening is cellular swelling. The fascia, which is the tight connective tissue wrapping around the muscle, is being physically stretched from the inside by the blood flow. That internal pressure signals the body to adapt and grow.
Wow. So your chest is fully pumped, it feels like it's going to burst, and right when you've hit that 12th fly, you transition to the grand finale.
The closer.
Exercise 3, the close grip press. Another 10 to 12 reps without dropping the weights.
This is a phenomenal closer because it targets the inner chest fibers in a completely different way.
For this one, he brings the dumbbells completely together over the center of his chest.
Right.
But he doesn't just hold them side by side. He actively squeezes them tightly against each other.
Right.
He brings them down right between the chest, down the center line, and pushes them straight up to about eye or nose level. What does squeezing them together actually accomplish?
It forces an isometric contraction before you even start moving the weight.
Meaning the muscle is firing and generating force without actually changing its length.
Exactly. Imagine trying to crush a walnut between those two dumbbells while you lift them. You are actively squeezing inward with maximum effort while simultaneously pushing upward.
Oh, that sounds brutal.
Your chest is already pre-exhausted from the presses and the sweeping stretch of the flies. Now you are demanding it to perform a crushing inward squeeze.
The result of stacking these three movements, the
Yeah.
tension press, the stretching fly, and the squeezing close grip back to back to back,
Mhm.
is just total exhaustion. I mean, Keith is visibly out of breath in his own video, just demonstrating the sequence with those 15-pound weights.
It absolutely proves his core thesis. When you stack precise, heavily contracted movements together and you completely eliminate momentum, locking out, and resting, you do not need heavy weight to force muscle growth.
All right.
You are exhausting the muscle fibers far more deeply and efficiently than you ever could by squirming under a 300-pound barbell.
You are working smarter, not harder, and far safer, too. Seeing a 61-year-old with 40 years of experience moving like this really drives home that longevity in the gym requires protecting your joints.
It elevates the workout from a mechanical, ego-driven chore to an exercise in deep physical mindfulness. You are forced to pay attention to every single millimeter of the contraction.
It really completely redefines the chest day routine. Ditch the heavy barbell, grab the dumbbells, find that perfect 25 to 30 degree solar panel angle to isolate the upper chest.
And then execute that 3-in-1 gauntlet, focusing relentlessly on the mind-muscle connection.
Exactly. I love Keith's party advice in the video. He just shrugs at the camera and says, "Fuck the ego,"
It's the perfect summary.
which honestly is perfect advice for the gym. But as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want you, the listener, to step out of the gym with me for a second and look at the rest of your life.
It's a philosophy that applies everywhere.
Because Keith's philosophy poses a really fascinating broader question. If letting go of a vanity metric like how much do you bench actually leads to far better, more sustainable physical results, what other areas of your life are you clinging to an ego-driven vanity metric?
That's a great question.
Maybe it's at work, where you're obsessed with the sheer number of hours you are seen sitting at your desk, rather than the actual quality and impact of the work you produce.
Or maybe it's a hobby you used to love for the craft of it, but now you only do it to show off the results to others.
Yeah, or maybe it's on social media, where you're constantly chasing a follower count instead of building genuine connection. Where in your life are you swinging a sledgehammer when you should be painting a portrait?
Where are you driving an 18-wheeler just to pick up a cup of coffee?
Exactly. Take a look around your life this week and ask yourself, what is your barbell? And is it finally time to let it go?